So I've handled a lot of people's motor vehicle collisions, but I've never been in one myself that was worse than a sideswipe in a parking lot or something until a couple of days ago. I had my kids in the car with me. We're going on Fort Washington Way. We're gonna head to a movie theater to see the Fantastic Four movie. And there's a sudden stop in traffic. I slam on the brakes and I get stopped. And I remember seeing this big grill in the rearview mirror. And my kid said, I said something like, don't hit me, don't hit me. And the next thing I know, bam, you know. And that was a big Tahoe, and it hit hard enough to shake us up, but the driver must have mostly gotten stopped. The problem was the car behind that one, this black GMC, comes along, and it didn't get very stopped at all. It slammed into the Tahoe so hard that it pushed all of us up into the car in front of me, which was like a Camry. And that was a hard hit. I mean, I knew as soon as it happened that I had gotten a jolt that was gonna cause me some kind of injury. But it's amazing how in the moment you don't feel it yet. You know, we're on Fort Washington Way, we're in the second to the leftmost lane, cars are still going by on both sides. My car has malfunctions all over the place. The airbags in my car didn't go off, luckily. The cars behind me did. You know, both my kids are freaking out, and I'm trying to figure out, like, what do I do here, right? And the only answer is the car's not drivable. We've got to get out of the car. We've got to try to make it over to the median safely. So, you know, we call 911 while we're in the car. We report everything, and it was kind of lucky that I do what I do for a living, because I'm used to hearing 911 calls. I know how they go, and I was able to give that information quickly and accurately because I know all the questions that come up later. And so I was able to, you know, kind of lay it all out. But then, you know, we start assessing our situation, still can't move the car. And so I get my kids out and I get traffic stopped in the fast lane, and we get over to the median. And then I turn around and I see the car in very back, all the airbags have gone off, and they're getting out of the car. It was a father, mother, and son, and their dog. And I see gas leaking out from under their car. And the person in the Tahoe between me and that rearmost car hadn't gotten out yet. So I stopped traffic again, and I went over to her, and she was really, really shaken up. And she said, I don't think I can get out of the car. I've got 4 kids in here, and the youngest one's just an infant. Again, traffic's still going on both sides of us. And I said, you know, with the gas coming out from under the car, I think we got to get over to the median and get down the road a little bit just in case. So I ran around to the other side of her car where the baby was. And again, you know, you're holding up your hand trying to stop traffic, and eventually somebody stops for you so you don't get hit. We started helping get the kids out of the car. The oldest one was 5, the youngest one an infant. We get everyone over to the median. And while I'm over there, I'm thinking about the things that I tell people to do in videos just like this one when they've been in a wreck. And how overall I'm not doing any of those things. I hadn't gotten anybody's name, I hadn't taken a picture, I hadn't done anything like that. The cops were just then getting there. And so I started thinking to myself, all right, I need to take the pictures. Everybody's gonna want them later on, not just my insurance company. And I need to make sure that I know who everybody is and get their insurance information. And this whole time, we've got the little kids all corralled by the median, and my kids, who are teenagers, are helping to keep them calm at that point because they've gotten over their initial shock. And if you give somebody something to do, it helps them get over those shakes that you get when you have that adrenaline rush, right? You've got something to focus on. So I had my kids focus on helping the little kids out. And, you know, at that point, the police get there, and they start talking to us. And the first thing that happened was, as I'm telling the story, if I'm stopped, I get hit once, then I get hit hard a second time and push me forward. Someone said the wrong thing back to me. Not because they meant to, it's just everybody's working quick. We've got the interstate halfway shut down, and you know, they repeat it back. And I've seen this happen over and over and over again, where police reports are not exactly right, And the way that they're wrong causes a problem later on. And so I had to be kind of a strong voice about saying, whoa, that's not exactly right. Let me tell you that again. And nobody was offended by that. They said, no problem, took it down again. And eventually the police report came out correct, right? But it was important that I did that because the way they originally wrote it down, there was only one impact, not two, which means that basically they're only looking at the car in very back and not the Tahoe in the middle. And then on top of that, they didn't say that I'd gotten pushed into the car in front of me. And later on, that car might have looked back at me and said, well, you didn't get stopped either, you hit us, right? And I knew that I didn't want that to happen because, again, I've had that argument with insurance adjusters too many times in my life. The other thing was not everybody had their insurance. There's airbags off in the car. They can't get in the glove compartment very easily. It turned out to be a little bit of a hassle to do that. I was glad that I asked when I did, because by the time the cops got there, it helped them get the scene cleaned up more quickly because they didn't have people trying to rummage through their glove boxes. We kind of made those delays, go away. And that allowed us to get our cars out of there a lot quicker and get our kids off the interstate a lot quicker. Luckily for me, everybody had insurance. And luckily for me, the car in back in particular, seems like they called their insurance company as soon as they could, and they reported everything accurately. They took the blame for it, which they should have, and were completely honest about it. So very, very helpful. One of the other things I noticed at the scene was, at first, I'm trying to help these kids out. I'm trying to help this mother out. And I didn't think about how I felt at all. And I've heard that from clients over and over and over again. You see police reports get written up with no injuries, which is actually what the cop said in mine. Even though after it was done, the cop escorted me off the interstate because I was driving to the hospital and I had to get on the back roads. My car eventually was drivable, but it was not safe to have it on the interstate. There were too many malfunctions. So I did a lot of work there, and then as I was waiting and I kind of cooled off a little bit, meaning waiting for the tow trucks to come, for the other cars, waiting for the police to finish writing up the report and give us an accident report number, I noticed that I started tightening up between my shoulder blades, and that's another thing that I tell people to be really conscious of at the scene, because it's easy to think when you've got the adrenaline in you that you're fine and that you're going to be able to walk it off, and that's not necessarily true. I've heard doctors testify over and over again that it takes 72 hours for the inflammation response to peak, and that means that your tissues and muscles are all swelling up because your body's trying to prevent further injury, and it's that swelling that hurts a lot of the time. So it gets worse before it gets better, whereas most people would think that you either feel it at the scene or you're not going to feel it at all. So I had to kind of make a point to assess myself when I had a moment to do it and make sure that I kind of paid attention to how I was feeling. Now, luckily, I wasn't hurt that badly. Both my kids were hurt a little bit. My daughter got it worse than anybody. But we're all going to heal and get better. What I didn't want to do was create this false narrative at the scene that I see get used against people by insurance companies, where they say, well, you were jumping around just fine at the scene. Yeah, at the scene, I had a baby to get out of the car when traffic was going by at 55 miles an hour. I had to be fine then. Once you sit down and you cool off and that swelling starts to happen in your body, just a natural response, you're not fine anymore. And that's something that people need to think about when they're in those situations, because once you report, no, I'm fine, no problem, and then 2 days later you decide it's bad enough you have to go to a doctor, the insurance company will try to use that against you. So I was glad that my years of experience doing this caused me to sort of have that self-analysis beforehand, before someone asked me, so that I could say, yeah, you know what, I can feel it in there. It doesn't feel like much now. I know that's going to get worse. So I am going to go see a doctor. The end result for us is the car's not repaired yet. The kids are not totally healed up yet. I'm not totally healed up yet. But we know that this is something that could have been a lot worse, and so we do feel grateful for it. I know that the people behind me seem like pretty good people. the car who was most at fault, like I said, they told the truth. Everybody had their kids in the car. You know, nobody wanted to get into a wreck that day. But it happened, and that's what insurance companies are for. And so I'm going to file my claim against the insurance company just like I would for anybody else. And I'm going to try to get a fair result for myself. And it sounds like from talking to that insurance company, they're in the same mindset that I am, you know. So hopefully we'll agree on what's fair, and that's going to take care of everything for me. But I wanted to record this because I have finally been in a situation that is something like what my clients are in. And it was a little surreal, but something that in a weird way I can be grateful for because it helps me understand the people that I'm representing a little better.